guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I have a very entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is 26 years old, and up until about 2 months ago, he was this close to proposing to his girlfriend. A girlfriend who, up until a big revelation, if you will, he thought was truly the one. Conservative, traditional, church-going, and pure. Saving herself for marriage, for her husband. And then that all came crashing down one day when he met someone that knew her from her past. And as it turns out, she was the, how can I put this, the hot dog eating champion of her university. And let's just say there was also some evidence for that. And it all came crashing down. And that'll be a very good one to go over here, guys, to show you how, again, it is so important. You need to do your homework on your girl. You need to do some digging. You got to find out about her past, because so many of these gals, especially nowadays, engage in lots of activities, if you will, when they're younger, and then they neglect to mention those activities with the guy that they're ready to get serious with and marry, and sadly those guys marry them and find out when it's too late. But our guy here finds out and handles it like a boss. Oh, and by the way, she doesn't take it too well when he finds this thing out. And all these things, the stereotypes in terms of her reaction, will definitely come into play. So it'll be a very entertaining one, a very good one for Friday that you guys will all like to kick off the long weekend. He says, "Hello SSM. I stumbled on your channel a few months back. A friend of mine had sent me a link to a Joe Rogan clip. While it was playing, my phone rang, and I went off to the other room to answer the call. When I came back roughly 30 minutes later, you two traveled down the autoplay next video rabbit trail, and on my screen was a strange guy with sunglasses sitting in a car reading a story about a guy whose woman was seeking an open relationship. Well, I'm glad to hear after you listened to Rogan, it recommended me. How lucky for me. The guy went along with it, and in the end, everyone lived happily ever after. Haha, yeah, right. I had restarted the video and listened to it from the beginning, wondering how anyone could be so dumb as to go along with their spouse's desire to sleep with other people, thinking it would yield a positive outcome. Sheer stupidity. Bro, I couldn't agree more. But there are guys that go along with their wives or girlfriends' open marriage request, and overwhelmingly it's always because out of fear. Out of fear that they're going to lose her. But then again, wouldn't you want to lose someone that says they want to sleep with other people? I've listened to a lot of your content, and I would like to offer a giant heap of thanks for your content. Because of the warnings you give, your channel has saved me from myself. Here is my story." Yes, I'm so happy you found my channel and it helped you, because good Lord. I am 26 years old and I work in an IT position with a decent sized company. I graduated a couple years back and took this job when it was offered to me. I am a conservative Christian and believe in traditional roles and values in marriage. I am one of those relationship guys that you talk about. I met Jessica, and he says in parentheses, I selected that name just for you, about 2 years ago at the church that I attend. Besides the main services on Sundays, there are several Sunday Bible study groups. I attend one called College and Careers. There are about 20 of us, give or take, who attend each week. We are all in our early to late 20s and in college or working on careers. After the main church service, a few of us would go out to lunch. Jessica was invited by someone in our group, and this is where I got to know her initially. Oh, you didn't really get to know her. Jessica is 2 years my junior. She recently graduated and moved to my city upon taking a job in her field. After a few weeks of these Sunday lunches, I decided to ask her out. She accepted. We met for lunch on a Saturday and then spent some time at the park getting to know each other. We were both on the same page with regards to our views on marriage, gender roles, and sex. You sure about that? She told me that she was saving herself for marriage and she never slept with anyone. It would not until her wedding night. I had gone out with a few women in college, but nothing beyond a few dates. So I'm going to read this part again. She told me she was saving herself for marriage and had never slept with anyone. It would not until her wedding night. Okay, you all remember that part. Okay? In all honesty, I was working on my degree. I had a full ride, but I had to get it done in 4 years, so while having a woman in my life was a nice thought, it wasn't my priority. Good for you, bro. Good for you. So many guys screw that up. Hey, you got a full ride, which is awesome. It shows you you're smart, and you're working hard. Yes, your priority is your purpose, guys. And your purpose in your late teens and 20s is finding that career. And prior to that, obviously, the education or the skills to get said career, put away money, establish yourself. That's the time, guys, that clearly what you do in that period in your life really will determine how the rest of your life goes. So good for you for not putting pussy first. Good, because most guys don't do that. Says here, I was okay with no sex. I am still a virgin myself. This has been a choice. I know I'm not a childlike stud, but I've also observed that small children don't run the opposite direction, screaming in terror after merely glancing in my direction. Bro, if you are a virgin and are that by choice, fine. That's your business. Okay? It's your life. Do what you want. Who gives a shit anybody thinks or says? And obviously you don't. The dates I had back in college were with attractive women, and Jessica is attractive as well. I know my views are old-fashioned by the world's standards, but it is a choice I made and will likely naively stick with. Bro, it's your business. And all the other guys out there watching this now that are virgins, by choice or whatever, fine. It's your business. It's your life. Jessica and I started seeing each other more often. She and I held the same religious beliefs, conservative values, and were in agreement on how many children we wanted, where we wanted to live, and how we handled our finances. There were plenty of makeout sessions at nights ending in frustration, but there was no sleeping over at each other's place and no heavy petting going on. We met each other's families. Her parents are still married, as are mine. Both were pleased with us dating. My mom loved Jessica and couldn't wait to become a grandmother. I want to emphasize that part that he says, my mom couldn't wait to become a grandmother. Okay. A lot of moms, you know, their sons or daughters get to be in the mid-20s, and they're darn well that's the time they meet their special someone, and they're just so excited for the wedding and grandchildren that tends to cloud their judgment. The dating was going well. There was talk about the future, what each of us wanted, and I envisioned her a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids and the household while I worked and provided. She agreed and voiced her desire to get married, but wanted to work for a few years before having kids. This way, we would be able to save enough money and buy a home. This is probably about the only thing about Jessica that I agree with. That's a good idea. Both save up some money, then buy a home. Good idea. Okay, that's the only thing. She didn't want her kids growing up in an apartment. Neither did I. Between the two of us, we should be able to have a hefty down payment in a couple short years. Sounds like the plan. What could possibly screw up this good situation? I don't know, a girl's past that she neglects to mention? I guess you could say I'd found the woman of my dreams. A couple weeks before your channel randomly appeared on my computer screen, we had dinner with my parents. As we were leaving the restaurant and walking out to our cars, my mom told me that I needed to get a ring on this woman. She was a keeper. I spent the next couple of days evaluating our relationship, pros and cons, areas we did and didn't agree, and if those would be a deal breaker or not. In the end, I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Jessica, so I did the next thing necessary and bought a ring. Smack! Well, clearly you didn't do enough homework on Jessica, and I might add, too fast. Now, you didn't specify the time period here, but obviously this is under 5 years, and this goes to show that this story, you really got to spend some time with a girl and get to know her and her family and do some digging. And this guy, let me tell you, when he finds out about who she really is, you don't want to marry her. I spent some time planning my proposal. Jessica was a special woman. I wanted to propose my proposal to be a memory she'd never forget. Oh, for goodness sake. It was during this time of preparation and planning when I saw your video. It was odd to me that someone would propose the idea of sleeping with other people to their spouse. I believe sex and intimacy were meant to be exclusive between a husband and wife. It's what God intended. Well, maybe the Lord, we can all have some fun with this. Maybe at this time period when you were thinking about proposing to her and figuring out what you want to say and do, maybe the Lord sent you my video and had you watch it for a reason. After watching the video, I browsed the comments, then looked up your channel. I was shocked to see a story after story about cheating and deception. I know the divorce rate is high, but I was clueless about the debauchery a lot of women embrace. I spent the rest of the night binge watching your videos. As I laid in bed that night, a recurring theme was echoing through my thoughts. If something you preach, get to know her, as you need to take your time to get to know her, who her friends are, etc. As I laid there, I asked myself exactly how well did I know her. I know 2 years of Jessica, but that's what was there. 2 years, there you go. Guys, people can be on their best behavior in the beginning. And sure, in the beginning, there's the honeymoon phase, as it's called. You know, everybody's excited because it's new and exploring things, and you can different definitions of exploring things. You know, there's the mystery and all that bullshit, you know, but it's easy in the beginning and people could put on a show. That's why you need a lot more time with someone. She had professed to being a virgin, and that would be confirmed on the wedding night. But what if she wasn't? I was not her first boyfriend. She dated a guy in her freshman year of the university, but they broke up at the end of the school year when they went back home for the summer. She went back to school in the fall. He did not, so they parted ways for good. I made the decision to put off the proposal so I could look into things. If asked, I couldn't say, yes, I know 100% who she is. Well, good for you for taking some... There was no rush. Notice it was your mom freaking, prodding you along to go get the wedding ring and propose and all that. So over the next few weeks, I did what I could. I monitored her social media accounts, nothing there. I would borrow her phone from time to time and do a little snooping, nothing there. No text messages, no apps, no pictures. I would use her computer at her place to look up stuff, i.e. snoop through her emails and files. Nothing was to be found. I'm going to stop right there. There are a lot of people, not you guys that watch me regularly, but there are a lot of people out there, particularly women, that would lose their minds over what he's doing here. But ironically, probably would justify if a girl was doing this to her boyfriend. Guys, you got to do your digging. You got to do investigating. You got to find out who she is. That is the sad world we're in right now. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, OnlyFans, gals displaying themselves on social media, all that. Thanks the feminist movement teaching the gals to be strong and empowered, and you can't be strong and empowered woman at 2024 without doing a lot of things that gals do, because of course if guys can do it, we can do it. You get the point. You have to dig. It is just unfortunate reality. And well, guys, you're going to find out that it's a darn good thing he did do some digging. I was beginning to feel like a heel for not trusting her. It was like, here's the perfect woman, exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm being suspicious and looking for a side of her that didn't exist. Too bad. Keep digging, sir. I was thinking that this SSM guy was full of crap, and maybe the stories are just that, stories. I'm sure you're not thinking I'm full of crap now, dude. During this time, whenever I'd phone my parents, my mom wanted to know when the wedding was. Mom, go hang out with Dad. Do something. This is my life. Stop pushing me into this whole thing. You keep this crap up, no grandkids, damn it. She was always disappointed when I told her I hadn't proposed yet. She warned me that if I waited too long, Jessica would tire of waiting for me and move on. So the hell what? Guess what, Mom? There are 8 billion people on the planet. Half are women. I'm sure a good guy like me that's doing well for myself, blah, 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 can certainly meet other women that are good ones. Because as you're about to find out, Mom, this one ain't so good. Back off. I love you, but back off. He says, enter Drew. Drew was a new hire at work several months back. We worked on a small project together when he first showed up. We went to lunch a few times with coworkers, hung out, but nothing outside of work. He was now working on a different project than me. We'd chat for a bit from time to time. One afternoon, I was told a bunch of people were getting together for drinks and dinner, and I was invited. I asked if it was okay if I invited Jessica. So we had plans to do something that evening, and this would be a good opportunity for her to meet some of my coworkers that I was friends with. Jessica joined us that evening. It was a great time, and afterwards Jessica and I spent some time together. Had a nice evening watching a movie and cuddling on the couch. We said our goodbyes and I headed home. On the drive home, I decided it was time to go ahead and pop the question. I'd finished my plans in the next week or two, but it turned out that wasn't going to be necessary. As I was unlocking the door to my apartment, I got a text from Drew. Drew was at dinner that evening, and we chatted with him for a little while. He asked if I'd join him for coffee in the morning before work. He wanted to discuss something with me, and I replied I was free and would meet him. Huh. What could the new hired Drew possibly want to talk about over a morning brew? At our coffee meeting, Drew and I casually talked about random things for a couple minutes. I assumed he wanted to discuss work, but there was something else in his mind. He asked me to please hear him out, and he said he was only doing this because if the shoe was on the other foot, he would like to know. This guy's probably like, what the hell are you talking about? He said he had seen the picture of Jessica and I on my desk when he first started and thought she looked familiar, but he couldn't place her. He figured she just reminded him of someone. However, last night after seeing and hearing her at dinner, he was sure. If it was who he was thinking she is, when he knew her, her hair was shorter and she wore a lot of makeup. Right there, I was thinking he must be mistaken. Jessica wears very little makeup, just some gloss on her lips and a couple minor highlights. No foundation, lashes, and all the other stuff that most modern women do. Oh, you mean she doesn't do that thing with her fingernails, or these super long Freddy Krueger, or like Lady Deathstrike from X-Men 2 fingernails? You guys ever see girls like that nowadays? They have these fingernails that go like out to here. You know, my first thought is, how the hell do these chicks wipe their asses when they have these long ass Lady Deathstrike fingernails here, right? It's crazy. Or dial a phone or anything else. He said he's 100% positive he knew her from his college days. Uh-oh. He had belonged to a fraternity and was quite certain she was almost always at the parties they threw. I told him that wasn't her at all. Now, I'm sure at this point, there's a bunch of guys say, this is bullshit. No way would that happen. Guys, how many times have you had experiences, particularly you older guys have been living long enough, when you have to say, wow, small world. You know, you run into somebody here, or you know somebody from there, and things happen. Holy crap, small world. That's what I think we're having here. And I've seen this before in my own life. She didn't drink and had zero interest in partying. As he was talking, I was defending her. Your words were starting to run through my head again. Almost like you were standing on my shoulder, smacking me upside the head, telling me to listen to what Drew had to say. I'm so happy to know that some people would think that I'm there on their shoulder smacking you upside the head. Kind of like in cartoons when, you know, the little devil would appear on one shoulder and the angel would appear on the other shoulder. Back when they did that in cartoons. You know, when somebody would make a decision. Good to hear. Get to know your girl. Find out about her past. While part of me wanted to tell him he's dead wrong about her and walk off, I knew I had to hear him out. I asked him if he was sure she was a party girl. He said she was, and if he could send a picture of her to one of the guys from the frat, the guy would be able to confirm it. I asked how he'd confirm it. Drew said this guy knew her very well, and then he added, when he confirms it, you'll probably want to take it to break it off. Now I was wondering what Drew knew, but he wouldn't tell me until he confirmed it was her. Oh boy. He said if his friend says it's not her, then he is sorry for making something out of nothing. Get to know your girl echoed through my head again. My stomach was churning, that nervousness we get from anxiety, of sudden stress and all. I knew I had to hear Drew out. I scrolled my pictures and found a couple of good face shots of Jessica, then sent them to Drew. This whole time of waiting must have felt like forever, like an eternity. Drew suggested we move to the outdoor seating. Several people we know in the seating area in the coffee house and suggested this should be more private. Once outside, Drew made his call. He placed the phone on the table and turned on the speakerphone so I could hear. When the guy on the other end answered the phone, they exchanged their hellos and some quick, how you doing? Drew had phoned the guy named Steve. Drew told him he wanted to send him a couple pictures and wanted to know if he knew who it was. He asked what it was about, and Drew said he'd explain in a few minutes, but wanted to know if he knew the person. Drew sent him the pictures. Steve let us know when the text came through, and he said he'd take a look. He responded, "That's Wild Cherry." Wild Cherry? What the heck was Wild Cherry supposed to mean? Drew asked if he was sure, and Steve said, "Oh yeah, for sure. That bitch sucked my dick like 5 or 6 times, drained my balls every time. I'd recognize her anywhere." Uh-huh. Drew winced and Steve shared the details. He mouthed, "Sorry, I was dumbfounded. This had to be a mistake." I don't think it's a mistake, man. I was about to say, this sucks. Bad choice of words. This is terrible. Can you imagine that? 2 years of your life with this girl, you think she's the one, amazing, pure, and then you find out, well, she's wild cherry. Steve asked why Drew was curious if it was her or not. He told Steve he knew the guy she was dating. Steve asked, does he know how she was passed around? Apparently I did not, but was about to find out. I was devastated. My brain still wanted to say he was confusing her with someone else. I spoke up and asked if he had any pictures of her at the frat parties. Steve asked if I was the guy dating her, and I told him yes. That had to be humiliating. He apologized for how he spoke about her, said he wouldn't have spoken that way if he'd known I was listening. I told him not to worry about it. Steve said he'd check his phone for any pictures. So after a couple minutes, he announced he had found a couple. I asked if he would send them to me. He said I may not like what I was going to see. I told him I already didn't like what I heard, and I knew I wouldn't like what I saw, but I needed to see them. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to see them, I have to see them. After giving him my phone number, he asked me again if I was sure I wanted to see them. I told him yes, and my phone chimed a couple times as the pictures came through. Holy crap, I can't imagine what this guy is feeling going through, waiting to see these things come through, and hearing his chick was wild cherry and the BJ queen of the frat house. Well, guys, that is where I'm going to wrap up part 1 here in this cliffhanger. I know I'm going to get a lot of shit in the comment section, but I need a break, and otherwise this video will be too freaking long. And I'm going to continue with part 2 in a few hours, and you're going to find out the extent of Jessica's adventures in the frat house and where these things end up. And let me tell you, well, you will get your money's worth, I assure you, when you find out in a couple hours about her and how this guy handles it and the whole thing. I will see you then.